Hello everyone, it's Michael. I'm here basically doing a response video to Jim Cornett. Don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it because it kind of irks me, the way he's been acting, what he's been saying, and also to Jim Ross in a sense. Now, I get it, Jim Ross is a big deal when he was with the WWE. He signed the biggest talents in the industry. Guys like Austin, guys like The Rock, Cena. I don't know if Cena was his, I think he was. Guys like Batista. And I get it. The WWE is this big company. Multinational, multi-billion-dollar company. But they had a bit of a situation where Ross was talking about the fact that Kenny Omega is not a draw. He believes, and he didn't specifically say Kenny was not a draw. He just said that Randy Orton is the best wrestler in the world, right? Now, here's my counter argument to that. Because also, I want to talk about the fact how Jim Cornette ran with it, and the biggest problem is Jim has hated the Elite all his life, all his time on radio, and I think a lot of it, what he does, is for his show, and I don't think it's personally what he believes in. But hey, that's his stance, I guess. But my biggest problem with him and the way he acts is I don't believe he has about as much credibility as a Republican who says that COVID isn't real, or that Trump won the election and all that bull crap. He has no credibility whatsoever, and I think Jim continues going down this rabbit hole because he knows that it will generate him money and buzz and people will talk about him. He's basically doing what he says about Vince Russo. I don't like Vince Russo. Most people in the wrestling industry with common sense don't like Vince Russo because he basically talks a load of garbage. But then that is it, He's a parasite in this industry. But if Vince Russo was considered the best writer in the world and they had facts to back it up and prove it, I would adhere and say, okay, he's the best writer in the world. I'm not saying he is the best writer in the world. But again, if someone basically had a bunch of facts and figures to prove that he was, then I would adhere to that. I would be like, okay, he's the best writer in the world. The biggest issue with this whole argument is this. Kenny Omega has, in Japan, managed to draw money. Yes, he wrestled a little girl who's now one of the best women wrestlers in the world. She was a former AEW champion and the first AEW champion out there, so you can't sit there and say that was a bad thing. Part of the reason she got there was because of the fact that she was trained by Kenny. The other thing is, I get styles are a thing, and people are like, oh, his style doesn't meet what wrestling is. What? Do you even know what wrestling is? Like, wrestling went from being a carny thing to basically being a sport to then being sports entertainment by Vince McMahon. And there were so many different styles in the world, but let's see it this way, right? Kenny Omega was an IWGP champion. Did he draw? Yes. He was part of the reason for the US expansion. They went all in on him and pushed him as this big star in America, and he was getting ratings. Did he draw in Ring of Honor when they brought him over? Yes. Again, part of the reason, him and the Elite were part of the reason why they did the Madison Square Garden thing. Despite the fact that now they are rebuilding the company from the ground up because they lost so many talents. And that's fine. Ring of Honor can become something else. It can associate itself back with what it once was. But again, that's another video. When you talk about the fact that Impact is rising in terms of ratings, AAA, I don't know what their ratings are like because they don't disclose that. But I'm sure their streaming viewership is up on Twitch. Then you have to look at AEW, who are drawing high ratings at the moment. And again, he's the champion. He's the guy on top. He shifts merch. They make a ton of money, him and the Elite. You cannot sit there. And this is the thing. These are things that Ross and Cornett have both stated is what like a main event wrestler should be, or the best wrestler should be. Even Al Snow has stated this. The best wrestler is the person who draws the most money for the company. Kenny Omega is the guy who draws the most money for AEW, who drew the most money for New Japan. The Bullet Club shirts and the merch that they were selling went off the shelves like freaking hotcakes. And you can't say, well, that's because of the Bullet Club, no matter who's there. No. Because the guys who are selling the merch are those guys, those faces who are at the front end of this. It bothers me when you're being so hypocritical and you're sitting there and going, well, he's not the best wrestler in the company. Orton has, and I'm not saying Orton is a bad wrestler. He's a great wrestler for what he does. But he's not the best wrestler. He's not a journeyman wrestler. He hasn't drawn in every company he's been associated with. And you can't sit there and say otherwise, because you're basically being hypocritical to everything you stand for. Jim, you really, and this is for Cornett, you really have to stop with the bullshit, because you're now going into Vince Russo territory. And Jim Ross, you basically have stated it yourself. These are things that have made someone who they are in a company and what makes the best wrestler. So now you're saying, well, the best wrestler isn't the person who draws, isn't the person who sells merch, isn't the person who basically has increased ratings for multiple companies. And I'm sure that the TBS deal that AEW have gotten, and the bonus, and I'm going to say an alleged 10 million bonus, isn't because of the fact that the guy at the top is been drawing consistently. And again, I'm not saying that Moxley doesn't draw. Moxley was drawing when he was champion. Jericho was drawing when he was champion. You're not going to put a title on someone if you don't think they're going to draw and they're not going to be the face of the company. He is the face of the company in 3 different companies. And you're sitting there telling me that this man isn't the best wrestler in the world. Like, Jesus Christ. You really, really want to make me believe that. If I was and again, I listen to your podcast. I watch your shows. I watch your YouTube channel. But Jim Cornett, really? You will never give Kenny Omega his due. You will never give the Elite their due. You will never give AEW its due. And that's the whole problem with the way you do things. You lie to the point where you think it's the truth. That's basically the Republican Party's motto, mate. And I find it hysterically stupid that you think that this is exactly the way things should be. No. Your system has stated that Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world. Your system of being a draw and selling merchandise and being the face of a company is what makes that person the best wrestler in the world. Hogan was the best wrestler in the world at one point because he was drawing every WrestleMania. He was drawing every WCW show. You can't sit there and say otherwise, because it's a bull-faced lie. Jeez. Like, common sense goes out of the window when people like you constantly talk and just basically to the point of it being abusive about people that, because you personally don't like them, they're not as great as they should be. I hate Donald Trump, but I never had a problem with him as president until he did some nasty things, right? That's the fact. And he was lying about the fact that he was saying them. You can't, look, here's an instance, right? The Rock is not considered the greatest actor in the world, but he is, because he draws and he makes a ton of money leading several franchises. You cannot say someone is not the best wrestler if you basically shun your own statistics, your own methods, and your own thing that says this is the best wrestler in the world because they sell merch, because they sell out arenas, and because they do ratings, especially in the pandemic era. Stop lying to yourself, Jim. Stop lying to your fans. And Jim Ross, again, I would basically look at that system and maybe rethink your thought process, because I'm sorry, sitting there and not acknowledging the fact that this guy has done a hell of a lot for this business and has drawn in 4 different companies and has been their world champion. Maybe you need to rethink your whole strategy here. If you say, personally, I think Orton is the best wrestler in the world, say why. Orton has been with the WWE for, I don't know, like 20 years? How many times has he drawn for the company? And again, I'm not hating on Randy Orton. I think he's a really great wrestler. He is not the best wrestler in the world. I'm sorry. But there you go. That's me. What do you think? Leave a comment below. This has been Michael saying bye-bye for now. And bye-bye from the doggos. And I shall see you very, very soon. Bye.